Welcome to the Open Bedroom Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Kalo. Welcome to conversations about open relationships, online dating, conscious uncoupling, and creating the relationship that truly aligns for you. If you enjoy this podcast, I hope that you do a couple things for us. Would you subscribe? Would you write a review? Maybe share us with your friends. And if you extra like us, there's a link in the show notes here for my Patreon that does help pay for the creation of this podcast. And lastly, follow us on the Open Bedroom. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to episode 100. I can't believe it's been 100 episodes. It has gone by so quickly. And I am joined by Tony and Christina. You guys have seen them on the podcast now 3 different times. And this is now episode number 4. And I thought, who better to bring on the podcast to help celebrate episode 100 other than like the 3 top episodes. So let me read you our 3 top episodes. The first one is episode number 42, Open Relationships 101.
Mm-hmm. That was our first one.
Yeah. That was our first one. Do you guys remember kind of what we talked about? Or?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just laid down the basics for just like open relationships in general and talked about some terminology.
Yeah.
From what I remember.
Mm-hmm. We did. And interestingly, it's our most listened to podcast episode. The second one is we came back and we did an Open Relationships Part 2 that I think was a little bit more blocking and tackling, like how to ask your partner for an open relationship. And then if they say, fuck no, then what do you do?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they say yes, then like what's the next steps? Like how do you even get into it when you're coming from a place of monogamy? So
exactly. Yeah. So that was a good one too. That was episode number 48. So episode 42, episode 48. And then our most recent episode number 56, Sexcapades. Now this one was really fun because Tony and Chris at this point had already moved to Baja, and I'll let them tell their story in just a second. But this particular episode is sexy. We talk about our favorite sex stories, being in the lifestyle. You guys talk about a swinger party or a lifestyle party that you went to that was really awkward as fuck. We also shared like some really yummy, fun stories as well as like things that did not go well.
Awkward experiences as well. So yeah, that was a fun podcast.
Yeah, because sometimes it's great and sometimes it's awkward.
So true.
So today I thought it would be fun to just get an update from you two. Like, where are you in the world other than right now being in Northwest Arkansas live with me? But normally, where are you? What are you up to in the world? And how has your open relationship morphed and changed since we've seen you last?
You want to talk about where?
Yeah, well, we live in Toto Santos, Baja California, Mexico. So that's where we spend most of our time now. And how has it changed since living there? I think like the number one thing that's different about down there is there's just not as many options when it comes to other partners, other people. So, yeah.
Not much of a community. We only know of one publicly open couple that we've become really good friends with.
Yep.
Is this a cultural thing?
Well, yeah. There's a lot of American people where we live. But culturally, like Mexican people are they're Catholic most of the time. So you're not going to find open relationships there probably at all.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I would say like whenever we do have our dating apps turned on, down in Mexico, it's a lot of tourists that are like there for the week.
Yeah.
So which is not really what we're looking for in our relationship. Is this like, oh, you're in town for a week, so let's have a quick like one night stand and then your vacation's over and you go back home. So like there is a lot of that. And don't get me wrong, like once or twice a year we do like that type of setting of short term for fun, but that's not really like what we're looking for in our relationship. So there's a lot of that on the dating, and we've only seen a handful of like local Mexican like individuals that are open to the idea of a non-monogamous situation. So yeah, there's just not a big open community there, which is not a big deal for us. And like to speak to how it's changed us, that's a good like a segue into like all of the different types of polyamory and how that it's like there's this like idea that if you're non-monogamous, you're just like you have sex dates 3 nights a week. And it's like, not to say that there's anything wrong with that, because a lot of people do that. We don't. Like, even whenever we were in America and we had a large opportunity, a large non-monogamous community, even when we had opportunity, we still only dated outside of our union a little bit. You know, we sometimes would go a year without seeing another person in a intimate sexual space. So I would say moving down there, it didn't change much in like the frequency, because like long periods in between dates was not uncommon for us, but the opportunity not being there. It's kind of like the reason why it works for us, because even if we do go 2 years in between dates, like I still have the opportunity, you still have the opportunity. It's not, we're not monogamous. We have the opportunity to go date if we want to. So like being in Mexico, it feels like there's like this energetic, like if I don't want to, but if I wanted to, I don't know if I could find a partner other than the tourists that are cycling through. So that was a little bit different. But meeting the other couple that's, you know, publicly open, and becoming really good friends with them. We're not dating them. We're actually just really good friends with them. It's like meeting them has really helped, just like knowing that there's another non-monogamous couple in the town. And I'm sure there are others that are just not public about it. But we know for sure there's another couple. And, you know, they have a lot of the same aspirations of us as like developing a sex positive community and being a little bit more public, and maybe even one day rolling into like, I don't know, a retreat or an event or something to just like, you know, along with the sex positive open community, there's also this BDSM community that kind of like, and we had a person, a lady that came over from Mexico City and hosted a shibari event. So it's like us and that other couple were like, hey, this could be really good for like, if people start to show up for these BDSM events, there could be some carryover of people that are maybe also interested in non-monogamy. So it's, for us, it's like we're trying to build the community there.
Interesting.
I
can imagine that some people listening can somewhat empathize with you, and that they're like, I live in a really small town, or I just moved somewhere new and I can't find anyone that's open like me. And so you guys are talking about actually kind of growing your tribe of non-monogamous people through either education or bringing events to your area that might draw them to you.
For sure.
How else do you date when everyone around you is monogamous and Catholic?
It's grow a community where you're at, or it's like, I mean, I know like the things that we've talked about is like, okay, what if it is just like our annual trip up here where we come to the States for the summer, we reconnect with all of our friends here. Maybe we take the swingers cruise in November. It's like, you know, it's like you start to plan vacations around connecting with these people that you have to have virtual relationships throughout the year. So like, to me, that's probably the route that a lot of people are going to go, because building a community it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of courage to show up and be like the one couple in town that's openly talking about that stuff.
I mean, just like our friends that we did meet that are open, they've said they've been there longer than we have in Baja. They said they've been like calling in people like them, like us, for like, I don't know,
manifesting
years.
Tribe.
So it takes time.
But
you can do trips. Like Mexico City is a little bit more open. So there's like other clubs you can go to, things you can do there. There's way more options there. So taking trips is a really good option. I think we'll definitely do that. in the future.
Yeah, it's cheap to take trips
Yeah.
from one place in Mexico to another. So we do have that. It's like we're way on the other side from Cancun, but it'd be like a $90 flight to cross Mexico to Cancun to go to like a swingers resort or something. So
Nice.
Yeah.
And it feels like if you look at the entire landscape anyway of your lives, being in an open relationship is really just a sliver of who not only you are, but who you're becoming, what's unfolding. Do you want to talk about what you've been up to in Mexico?
Yeah, that'd be fun. So through the process of building the relationship and building the community, what's come up for us a lot, and it actually started a few years ago, like really developing our own relationship, like, because that's a big part of the process for us, is like not only are we like open to other relationships, but how do we make our personal relationship, our union, the best it possibly can be. So whether that's through experimenting in BDSM, one of the big tools for us was starting to learn about tantra and sacred sexuality. So we've been studying that for a few years now, and through that came a lot of different avenues and a lot of different ways you can go with that. We also are plant medicine advocates. So working with MDMA therapeutically is big in our awareness. And one of the biggest shifts for me and like what we're up to and what we're trying to build and create for the future, we have been practicing for a little over a year now, holding space for couples. I can't remember which word you can and can't say, if it's counseling or therapy, but we hold space for couples in a therapeutic manner while assistance with MDMA. So we've been doing that for a little while now. And that, since we got to Mexico, where a lot more things are legal, and there's peyote ceremonies, ayahuasca ceremonies, everything is being like advertised publicly on social media. So there's a lot more opportunity to work in the plant medicine space, in the tantric space. And while that's really taboo for a lot of people to mix plant medicine and tantra, and that's not my desire to like just bring plant medicine into the tantra space, but out of people that are already very well versed in the tantric space, that are also well versed in plant medicine, creating this like separate little bubble where you can pull from both worlds. And we're sound healers, we created a little event a few months ago where we did MDMA assisted like couples therapy, and we provided sound healing, and we provided MDMA, and we had this little trifecta of just like one of the most juicy experiences I've ever been a part of. So I know that there's a handful of us down there that are talking about bringing more of that into the space and starting to talk about what all that could look like. So that's a big thing that we're up to.
Since you cracked open that door, I'd like to dig in a little further and walk through. Okay. So for a lot of us listening or watching, I'm still like half off the screen, but for a lot of us listening and watching, we may have heard of MDMA and we don't really understand it. And so I'm curious if you could explain maybe, why would you do it? What is it for? And then as you explain this like really juicy experience, tell us a little bit more about this juicy experience, because some people might want to come down to Mexico and have this experience with you.
Yeah.
I would let you like scientifically explain what MDMA is.
Okay.
Maybe. And then we can go into like, what does it do?
So I would definitely start by suggesting going out and finding like a documentary, like one of the best ones is Michael Pollan's Gosh, I can't remember the name of it, but it was a 4-part series on
It's
Netflix.
on Netflix.
And it was based on his book, and he did an episode on mushrooms, an episode on LSD, an episode on MDMA, and then the last episode was on mescaline, so the different cacti medicines. So that series is amazing for the 4 primary medicines that we work with, and why you work with them and specifically what they do. I highly recommend that series. I think it's like How to Change Your Mind or something very similar to that. MDMA is, I've been referring to using the term plant medicine because all 3 of those others, mushrooms and peyote or mescaline is, plant medicine. It's natural. It's from the earth. Those are both very psychedelic in nature, and those both facilitate a very connecting to source, connecting to God, connecting to insert whatever term you're comfortable with. The synthetics, MDMA, is a medicine, and this is where I first started researching, looking at what the MAPS Institute is doing out in California. Decades of research in the therapeutic usage. So important to designate. MDMA is very commonly used in the rave scene. So it is an amplifier of everything that feels good. So that's why you'll see it's probably one of the most common substances to use at a rave, at concert, light shows, music, sex, everything that is external stimulus that feels good. It's going to make that feel 100 times better. That's why it is awesome for the juicy part of the event. What it's doing therapeutically.
Okay.
And if you start to research all of Rick Doblin's work at the MAPS Institute, it basically, to explain it in as easy as I can, it dissolves the filters and the walls and the barriers that your brain has made to protect you from trauma. To keep you from looking at things. So if you want to think about if we had a very traumatic experience and I did something, that caused some trauma between the 2 of us, it would be a normal human thing for there to be a wall there and for us to just avoid that topic. But whenever we sit with MDMA together, that is just not there. And then we can have a very deep conversation from an extremely loving space of I didn't intend to make you feel this way when I said that thing. And so that's why it's so powerful in the therapeutic space, because it just it reduces it almost completely makes everything go away that keeps you from doing work, that keeps you from looking into those dark.
Sounds like a truth serum.
Kind of.
Yes, I would say so. And when we first started working with it, we were just doing it to amplify our relationship. And honestly, we started from the space of just this is going to make sex great.
Right.
Let's just dose and have sex for 5 hours.
Which it does.
But what started happening is we would be in the middle of building up to sex. And I would be oh my gosh, I'm getting flooded with childhood memories and things that I need to talk about. And can we pause this for a second and just sit up and have a conversation? And there was multiple times where we would just pause the fun stuff and just come to a seated position and be this is what I'm remembering happened to me as a child. And now that I can notice that my parents were doing the best that they possibly could with the tools that they had. And it was maybe even the same decision I would have made in that time, in that space. While it was very upsetting to me and created this thing that feels like trauma to me, I completely let go of it and come to a place of having a lot of forgiveness for my parents. So, and amplifying our relationship. So that is MDMA as well as 5 hours of great sex. So both of those are possible on that specific substance. So that's why it's so powerful, because you can sit down in that space and go through these eye gazing communication drills that we take people through in relationship coaching. And they're in that space of being able to have these hard conversations, and it's 5 hours, so there's plenty of time for fun stuff at the end of it as well.
I think to its essence, it just connects you to pleasure. But pleasure is like so much more than just sex. It could be like food. If you eat a grape, it's going to be like the most amazing grape you've ever had. It connects you to like, I think a really fun but subtle part of it is like at first, when you're first starting to feel it, you kind of just start feeling like a kid. And you're like, oh, like I want to go dip my feet in the water because that feels so fun. Or like, let's play a game. Like you're just connected to your pleasure, and all of your senses are connected with that. So it's really beautiful medicine.
Dancing, singing, playing.
Yeah, coloring, like
great stuff.
all of it.
Great activities.
You like you're saying, you lose the barriers, and some barriers that we have is like we're adults, we can't, go play anymore. A lot of people feel like they can't do that, but that's like when it first starts, that's one of the first things that it starts like introducing back into your body is like, oh, let's go play. And like a lot of times we're like, we take turns where it's like, oh, I want to do this. And then we do that for a little bit. And then he's like, oh, but like, what if we do this? This would be so good. And it's all like small things like dipping our feet in the water, going and playing in the sand. It's like, it's so beautiful. Yeah. It's so fun.
It's just like, I'm going to bury you in sand right now.
Yeah.
It'll feel so good.
Yeah. All of that.
So when couples come to you and they're like, okay, I want to do this whole MDMA thing. Can you hold space for me? We have shit we need to process, and then we want to fuck for 3 hours. Like, what does that actually look like?
What is it?
Is that what it looks like?
The schedule? Yeah. So, it's very much exactly like that. So I pull from the therapeutic space, but I also pull from the ceremonial space from previously holding space in mushrooms. So it looks like a combination of the both whenever we host those events. So we'll sit down in a circle, we'll sage, we'll light incense, we'll light candles, we'll speak our intentions into the space. We'll have a very conscious conversation. We'll educate depending on how familiar they are with the medicine. If they've used the medicine outside of the rave scene, because that's another big thing of like re-educating people of what these substances are, like what the purpose is. So there'll be a little bit of education. We'll all dose together in a very ceremonial setting. And then you've got like 45 minutes before it really starts to come on. So that first 45 minutes is a very just like talking, setting intention, setting space. Maybe we stay in circle and talk. Maybe we go right into, depending on the couple and what the intention is for them. Sometimes it's a good idea to like go ahead and just jump immediately right into like getting them into like an eye gazing exercise where they're starting to communicate about what their struggles are, what their big wins are in their relationship, that kind of stuff, and kind of like start to set the tone for the evening. And then there's also a lot of like starting to bring in compassionate touch and like guiding, like maybe it would be a good idea for you to rub each other's feet while you're having this conversation. So so there's a lot of that on the come up. And then what we have found is actually like the most important part about all of it is, like a lot of medicines, the medicine is going to deliver what you need, not necessarily what you want. So like I may have this really strict schedule of how I think the perfect setting would be, and which could look like at 45 minutes when you first start to feel the peak. I feel like it'd be an amazing space for a couple to be in an eye gazing exercise and talking about how they feel about each other as that medicine is coming on, where they may be just like have so much energy and all they need to do is to get up and dance and move. So like there's a lot of suggestions on our part of like, depending on how you're feeling, we could do this, or we could do this, or we could do this. So it's always like, I'm imagining like the video game, the role play where it's like you get to this person and you have to pick the 3 things. And it's like, you could go on these 3 different paths. So it's like, there's one of those like every 20 to 30 minutes in this event. And it really dictates where their headspace is, what is moving through them, and what is like their intention to get out of it. Do they just need to have some childlike play and have fun together, and get to that space, back to that space in their relationship where they just enjoy being around each other and playing together? Or do I need to like encourage them to fight that urge to get up and move and play because there's something really serious that movement could be They're just like distraction method to try to avoid having the hard conversation. So it's very like intuitive on our part of like what listening to them and reading their body language and what all is possible in that space, because it could go a lot of different routes. So, and then, so there's a lot of holding all of the different things that could happen. And then our intention always is to, there's like a moment where it's like 2.5, maybe 3 hours in where you start to feel sober, but the medicine is still strong in your system. And the work is over. And then we gather our things and then we like politely let ourselves out of the space. And it's like, okay, your massage table is set up. You've still got an hour of feeling really good. You all should take what work we've done and like explore intimate touch, explore whatever feels good for you in this moment. So we try to leave the space if it's not a non-monogamous like space where we would be involved in that. But so we leave the space and allow them to have that like last juicy hour and a half of medicine in the system to amplify their sexual space.
Hey there. Did you know that I do online coaching? Yes, I do online coaching in the sex and relationship space. Some of the topics that are near and dear to my heart are open relationships. So that includes polyamory, swinging, or what we call the lifestyle. I also love conversations around online dating. We're talking Bumble, Tinder, Field, and more. And then the last thing that's really passionate and close to my heart is conscious uncoupling. That means we get to break up with people with love and respect, with dignity and hope. We get to create a life for our children that gets to be a little bit different. We can do things better than we have in the past. So if any of these topics sound interesting to you and you'd love to get some coaching from me, check out the link in the show notes or the link in my bio for more information on coaching with Jen. Okay, so I feel like I have one more question as it relates to this, and that's really, what type of couple is this for? Like, if you've done the therapy, you've done all the work that you can, and you're like, I still want to save our relationship, is this like a last ditch effort? Or is this like, hey, we've been realizing in our relationship that there's just like unresolved shit, or like we're so fucking serious in our real life and we want to figure out how to play together and connect in a different level? Like, who are you looking for to come play with you in Mexico in this experience?
I think both. Like, where we started it between us was just to like, we had an amazing relationship, want it to get even more amazing. There wasn't necessarily anything we needed to fix or do, but we just wanted to work on our relationship and make it even stronger. So that was our scenario. But I think it also could be like you said, like you're at your very end, but you really want to do something, you want to keep fighting. This could also be that. That could be the thing that not fixes it, but gets you back on the path to reconnecting with your partner. It can be both.
Yeah. I'll agree with that. I'll agree with that in terms of the medicine and what it's capable for. And then because your question was posed as who are we looking for? Okay. And it's for not people that are looking for the last ditch effort. Okay. Because I feel like if you've tried everything else and you've went to therapy, you've done these things and you've done all of this stuff, there's a pretty low percentage that this is going to be the thing that fixes it, especially if you already have this preconceived idea of like, I've tried everything. You already expect it to also be a failure. So I'm not looking for that. Yeah, I don't think that's what I meant. So I was, again, you know how we always like reference from our own reference point. So for me, I was thinking about, a year ago when Scott and I were desperately trying to figure out how to stay together and have somewhat of an open relationship. And even our own polyamorous therapist was saying, I think y'all are just going to have to break up. Like, you can't seem to agree on anything. And I wonder if an experience like this would have helped open up additional ideas or opened our hearts more or softened our hearts even. Definitely. Where like one person was like, this is the only way to be. And I was like, this is the only way I'm going to be. And like, I wonder, because in that instance, like, you're looking for a way to
savior thing. It's not that you've given up. You're like, there fucking has to be something out there that can break past like our mental walls and constructs and programming that can give us the solution that we need.
Yeah. Yes. I think it'd be great for situations like that. If it's just like, if one or two people are stuck and they're stuck in a really hard boundary, it may be that boundary is there for a reason and that's their truth, but it could be that dissolving those walls allows them to see that there might actually be other potential out
what
there.
About, like addiction issues? Is it something that might help kind of shake?
It's not the medicine that I would push somebody that's dealing with addiction or suggest. There's other plant medicines that are way stronger that are out there. And the reason why I say like what I started to say is like, who is it good for? I mean, this medicine is most commonly in the therapeutic space in the clinical trials. It's being shown to be one of the best possible medicines for like severe PTSD, suicidal combat veterans. So like some of the worst mental trauma like on the planet out there, like this is the medicine that's helping them.
Wow.
So it is the medicine for some extreme work to be done. Just that's not the work that I'm currently facilitating because I'm not a therapist.
Yeah,
I'm not a therapist. So yeah, so I'm looking for like she said, like my preferred couple to work with is somebody that already has done a lot of the work. They're in a medium to medium well phase in their relationship.
Like a steak.
They're pretty good and they're just looking for, I want to make really good amazing. That's who I like to work with. They already have some tools and they're looking for a couple more.
All right, so Chris, anything else to add to this? Okay, I want to move us into something different. So outside of this whole MDMA thing, I mean, you guys are still doing a lot of other things in Mexico. You're doing men's work and men's circles and sound bowl healings. And like, it feels like, and I've known y'all now for a bunch of years, that it took like moving out of the country into a totally new space to feel really free, maybe to use like your magic and your gifts and really let it unfold. And so I'm curious, for those of us that are hesitant to unleash our gifts, and we know that they're freaking there, what kind of encouragement would you have? Or maybe like based on this experience, does it take moving to a whole nother country and culture to like shake that loose? Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I want to preface this first by saying that my experience may not be the same for everybody else, because a lot of people, especially in the coaching space, I see it over and over and over that they're like, this is what worked for me. Yeah. So this is what you should do. Yeah. So like, I want to explain what worked for me. And if it resonates with their listener, then maybe it's what's right for them. But there's a lot of other tools that I'm aware of for stepping into your power. I will say that moving out of my hometown was like the ticket for me. And I want to like explain like the energetics behind that. And it's not to like be negative towards anybody that I've known for my whole life, whether it's friend or whether it's high school friend or family or whatever. Like I have been a bunch of different versions of me. And so my family and friends have like witnessed every version of me. So like, and that's what we do when we create a judgment about a person. We look at and consider all of the information that we have. And like, if you knew me at my like early 20s fuck up phase, where I was like
the shittiest version of
where me. I was the shittiest version of me, and not spiritual, not health conscious, not even a good person most of the day. Like that's part of your idea of me. And when you're surrounded by an entire city that you attach that to. So like, not only do other people that know you maybe see you for everything you have been plus what you are now, you're also unconsciously doing that to yourself. So that, and I think that's a lot of imposter syndrome that shows up for a lot of people. I think that's a lot of like insecurities that shows up for people, is like you're aware of every other version of yourself, and so is everybody around you. So you reinforce that by not stepping into your power. You reinforce that by maybe not being super confident whenever you go to sit on a podcast or walk into a classroom full of people to share your magic. So self-doubt plays a big part. If you're surrounded by old versions of yourself and perceptions of old versions of yourself. And what we noticed, I wasn't even aware of it, but whenever we started traveling in 2020 and we started making friends on the road, people were like, had seen who we are at that moment. And they're like, oh, you're a sound healer, you're a coach, you're this, you're that, you're a yoga teacher, you also have fitness knowledge. Well, like all of these things, you're a conscious, pretty good guy. And like have a good relationship, and all of these things, like we started being like really seen in a different light, and it
redefined,
and at first I was like, oh my gosh, these people respect me and I'm being disrespected at home, and which is like was my story for a little while, which is totally not true. They just have a different subset of information that they know about me, and it's like I don't hold that judgment over people here anymore, but I did for a while. But stepping outside of that, I was like, you're right, I am a yoga teacher and I am a sound healer and I can fucking do these things and I will do these things. And we stepped into it and we just started growing like exponentially faster than we were here.
Right.
And now coming back here with knowing all of these things, and then like not judging people that were judging me because they knew all of me, like just letting go of all of that, and like not coming here feels completely different than it did even just last year. And visiting has been way more comfortable.
Yeah, I think it's like what you're saying. It's like it's faster. Like if you want to do it faster, moving somewhere new, we'll do that. When you're like at the place where you grew up, it's more of an uphill battle. I think one of our friends was saying that because she's going through the same thing. So it's a little bit harder. You're probably going to struggle a little bit more. But when you move somewhere else, you have a clean slate. Nobody knows anything but the you right in front of them.
That's a good point. So not only I think have I watched Tony step into his magic, but you also said yes to a women's course and this whole experiential journey. And do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I think, I did a course with Emily Abbott, which was amazing. Highly recommend that. But I think for me, it was that plus, so I'm Mexican, but I was born in California. So spend most of my time in the United States, but going back to Mexico was really more of like digging into my roots for me also. There's like, I think like some things I've noticed is like my nervous system is more calm there than it was here, where like I didn't even notice that it wasn't calm while living in the United States, but I feel like more of a sense of ease, more calm, like more where I belong in a sense. So I think that really amplified it as well. It's just like feeling at home and also feeling free because nobody knows who I was in a past life. So it's just like a really beautiful place to transform or really, really show your magic, like you were saying.
So I guess I want to ask, kind of a big final question that will probably take a while to answer, but like, what is next for you two? Are you coming back to the US? Are you going to stay there? What magic are you stepping into? What offerings? What does the future look like for you?
I think I'll answer the first one, that we are staying there. We'll be in the United States for a couple more months, just soaking in family time and stuff like that. But we fully plan on going back around November. Somewhere around there. So that's the first one. What else are we?
Well, to elaborate a little bit more on that, we're going to buy a house. We're going to buy land. We're going to build a forever home in Toto Santos. And that'll be like home base. But summers are rough there. Summers are hot. Hurricane season is buggy and gross. So a lot of the Americans that live in that area also travel either back to Canada or back to the US or somewhere else in the world that's nice in like July, August, September. So we will stay kind of with that frequency of like always either traveling to other places in the world that we want to visit, always coming back here and touching base with family and friends here in the summer months, and doing, like a lot of our stuff, the things that we want to build and the businesses we want to grow is going to require a little bit of like global travel. So that will always be needed. But we intend our home base to always be Toto Santos, at least for, the next 10 to 20 years. And so that's where home will be.
What's next?
Yeah, what's next? Yeah, growing businesses and growing community and, seeing the world and like just trying to be a light for the community and for our friends and family as much as we can.
Yeah.
And both of you started or worked for a long time at Walmart home office behind a cubicle wall. Did you ever have dreamed that your life would be what it is today?
No. Up until COVID, not working at an office just was not an option for me. You had already left. But I still very much had a corporate job, and it was just something I think a lot of people think you'll do when you retire. So I was just didn't even think of it as an option, but I cannot ever go back now. So
yeah.
Was it worth it?
100
yeah.
100 times, yes. Yeah, I mean, everybody has this story, like she said, we had this story of we had this deep desire to travel, and I can't tell you how many times we talked about how would we ever get to a place where we could take just a year off and take our RV and go up and down the California coast. We were just it seems like something you would have to win the lottery or be insanely rich to just not work for a year. The idea of working remotely just was not a common thing. I know that there were a lot of people doing it. I know that there's a lot of different ways that people have always figured out how to do this lifestyle. I wasn't aware of it. Also part of that devaluing myself of what I'm capable of probably had a lot to do with it. We thought we had to do the normal society programming thing of sitting at a desk and building wealth and a house and cars and a picket fence and all the things that you're supposed to have. We thought we had to have it. But I mean, selling the house and selling all of our things and moving into a vehicle and realizing that there's a lot of other people that are doing that on the road. There's people that are doing that on the road with children. Every excuse anybody has ever given me for why they're jealous and why they can't do it.
Yeah.
We know 100 people that are doing exactly what they're saying they can't do. No matter what the excuse is, there's people that are doing it. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people that want to break out of the 9-to-5 picket fence mold?
Do it. Just
tomorrow.
Yeah, just make a plan that is gonna keep your basic necessities provided for.
Yeah.
Find somebody that's doing it. I mean, for us, this sounds silly, but for us was following Instagram pages of people that were doing it. And okay, how are you doing it? What do you do? Ask people questions.
Yeah.
Hit us up, DM us on if it's how do you have service out in the middle of the woods? Starlink.
Yeah.
Where do you find work on the road? There's so many different things you can. We know nomads that it's okay, they're gonna their version of travel is they're gonna take their RV and they're gonna go set up in Joshua Tree, and then they're gonna find a job there. And then they're going to work an actual regular job where they go into a place and work, and then they save and they stay there for as long as they feel like staying there. And then they're researching the next place. And then they have a job set up at the next place, and then they travel there, and then they live in Lake Havasu for a few months. And so there's so many different ways of doing it. I have the same idea about that as I do about any form of what you want to do in life, whether it's business, relationship, the type of travel. Go find the mentor, go find the person that's doing what you want to do, and listen to them.
I think a really big thing for us before we left, we're what's the worst that could happen? I don't know, we have to come back and we get another corporate job, and that's okay, right? So we're like, yeah, we can, if we have to, we'll come back, but we're gonna go for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys for coming back on. This is a very different episode compared to the other 3 that we've done.
Yeah.
But I think it really shows, you know, I think it's easy to get like not blindsided, but like blinders on about all this like lifestyle stuff and open relationships. And at the end of the day, it's like a sliver of our entire life. And you guys show us this like 360-degree view of like, no, it's not just this, it's also being a nomad, it's moving to Mexico, it's like stepping into my purpose and my power and why I'm here on the planet and continuing to discover that, and you know, doing a women's group and like all the cool things that you've done in the last maybe year since we've recorded. I'm not even sure how long that was, episode 56 or whatever it was, but yeah, and there's still fun to be had.
For sure.
So much fun.
Yeah, giving people more information about how to make judgments of us, sharing more of our story. Awesome.
I was like, what? I was like, okay.
No, like giving people more, like we're more than just
we're
open relationship coaches. We're also a lot of other things.
Cool. Well, we'll put all your info in the link below, the links. I'm sure there will be many links. You guys want to go to Mexico and see them and you know, do some kind of cool ceremony that you can't do here in the United States. We'll give you a link for that and all your other pages.
Cool. Thanks
for
so
being
much.
on, as always.